chasing gun dogs, the next best thing is talking about it.
Join Wade and Thomas as we discover the people, the places, and the birds, and of course, the gun dogs that make upland hunting our passion.
This is the Setter Tales Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Setter Tales Podcast. I'm Thomas, joined by my co-host Wade, episode 44.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, we are getting there, and it's every day's getting more excited. We're getting closer to fall. We had a couple cool nights this last week, and was able to get the dogs out, move them around, and get them out into the grass a little bit. Not too much. A lot of them evasive little weeds that get in their skin, and you don't know about it until it's hunting season, and they're sick and hurting. And
you're getting closer to puppies.
Yes, I actually took some of the glamour shots of the old whale the other day. And got her on a pigeon, and she got her shaved down. I was like, oh boy, we still got a couple 2.5 weeks left.
That's going to be fun. That's always fun.
We're excited, and I'm pumped, and whether I have one puppy or 6, I'm excited. This is starting her as a baby to now where she's going to be a mother. And at 4 years old,
that's the fun side of it. And our guest and I has been down that road many times over the years. And so when you get that new puppy, and you anticipate what that dog will become, in the years to come, that's what the great fun is about it. And and then deciding which one you're going to keep if you are going to keep one. That's almost impossible.
Ordered the little Velcro puppy collars today with the different colors, and it's like,
well, good luck to you on that, because that's difficult.
This is getting real. So I think I know what I want to look for. Obviously, I do. If I could get a chestnut that looks like CJ, or
that'd be great.
One like with a real black head with some spots. You don't see the spots right away, and I just know that they're going to be good-sized dogs. They're going to have a lot of running gear on them.
Big dogs,
Yeah, I know you do. You like big ones, and they're going to be good-sized. They're going to be straight-tailed. I'm, talking with Sean and seeing what the male's producing, and we all both had the same opinion on what we thought was going to happen, and so they're going to have big, long, tall, straight as an arrow tail. So I'm pumped. I get goosebumps thinking about it. So
awesome.
And that kind of goes by to the, we don't talk about bloodlines a lot, and that kind of helps us with our guests, because I stumbled upon what I have for a bloodline, and you got what you like, but we have Kelly Bryan with us tonight, and he is a big Shadow Oak bow guy. So something way different than what you and I deal with, and if you know anything about setters, Shadow Oak bow is one of the best to ever be put into a field.
Yeah, best to come along in a long time.
So Kelly is joining us tonight. He is the Big Springs manager for Brownells, and he's big in the NAVHDA. So we're gonna just bombard you with all these questions tonight, and we're looking to have a good time.
Yeah.
So welcome, Kelly, and
well,
here we go.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for having me on your show. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we're always looking for interesting guests, and we know you're full of knowledge. You've been doing this a long time, so any new knowledge that we can get. I'm young yet, and Wade's got his ways, and I'm trying to be. I'm being nice. But
sometimes he has to be schooled, Kelly, about how it was in the old days.
Yeah.
Some of the new gadget and gizmos aren't always the best. Sometimes you got to go back to how it used to be done, right?
That's right. That's
now
right.
You don't have to lay a coat down.
Now, we were talking before we came on. We were talking about a particular setter that when I first met you. Gosh, I don't know, how has it been, 10 years ago maybe or more, I think.
I bet it has.
You had some setters at that time, and you were doing some guided hunt things down there at the complex, which I believe you still do. And have some guides that do that at least. And so we got to kind of compare notes on your dogs, and but as Thomas said, we're always interested in how particular individuals decided to kind of follow what we like to call a line of dogs. You know, everybody kind of has a favorite, and you know, they're not always the same, but sometimes you kind of like a particular dog that you got out of a breeding, and you think, you know, I'm going to try to continue that on if I can find the right mate, you know, that has some similar characteristics or characteristics that I'm trying to build and make stronger in my dog. And so, what's your experience, I guess, with that?
So, so to tell you that dog you're talking about, I'll give you a little background on him, and you guys were talking about how in your lifetime you just kind of had these dogs show up at your step, you know, and people say, here's your puppy, or here's your dog. So I had quite a few dogs, and I've been very fortunate, and I want to give a shout out to some of the people that have kind of helped me along the way. Bob West and Ed Rader. I don't know if you ever heard of Ed Rader, but he lives out in Indiana. He's been a setter guy. He's 87 years old, still got 4 or 5 setters. And so Ed and I have been good friends. Ed, he actually started the Command Series e-collar, which was the first e-collar that had the different levels of stimulation on the handheld. It also would operate the backing dog, and it would bird launchers and that type of stuff. And he ended up selling his company to a company called Inattack, which shortly was purchased by Gundog, or excuse me, Sport Dog. And so Ed and I are really good friends. Ed was a shoot to retrieve guy, and anyway, I was at home one day, and he said, "Kelly, I'm coming out there to visit you for a few days, and I got 2 setter pups left. They're about 6 months old." He said, I'm gonna drop them off your place." He said, "You can keep 1, you can keep 2. You don't have to keep any, but whatever you don't want, give them away." So he showed up, and he had that Will dog. I called him Will, and he had another pup with him, a litter mate, and I gave him away. I really only had room for one more dog, and so I took Will, and I got to tell you, he probably turned out to be one of the best dogs I ever owned. And Ed run a kennel, and his dogs were Poplar Ridge, and but that's how I got that dog. And
Now, what year would that have been?
well, I was thinking about that today, and that's probably been. It's probably been 20 years ago.
Okay.
I think Wade, when you seen him, he was getting old.
I think he was. Yeah.
And but he was a dog that I'll tell you something. He was broke, steady, wing and shot. He just, there's dogs that will find birds, and there's dogs that will manufacture birds, and that dog would manufacture birds. I mean, he was a great dog, and he had a great nose on him. I've always said that with a bird dog, you can just about put anything you need to put into a dog except a nose. And I've not heard of a veterinarian transplanting a good nose on a dog that had a bad nose. And so So, if they can smell, uh, the rest of it, in my mind, and it's my opinion, you can put it in them.
Yeah, and I think of course, Sweet Lou was a similar kind of dog, and once you have that dog, and if you get a chance, you'd like to carry on that dog's line or lineage if you can to another breeding. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But were you able to do that with Will then?
I have, unfortunately, I I never kept any for myself, and I would keep them for a while, and then I'd have somebody show up and say, "Boy, I'd sure like to buy that dog."
Yeah.
And uh, actually, just a couple blocks from me here, there is a direct daughter um, out of him, and she's had pups, and one of her pups is bred right now, and I could probably get one. I probably should, but uh, I regret that I never
Yeah.
kept one.
Well,
What?
here's something. I dare you. I dare you. No, and that's something, Wade, to add on to that point with you saying, a dog that'll go find birds and then a dog that'll manufacture. And I think Wade and I have that same philosophy. When I put a dog in a field and we're not getting into them, and I see it with other dogs and not just setters, I see them with every breed. After
Yep,
a while, if we're not getting into something, they're hanging out here. And
yep,
and what I've bred for now is my female. She's a manufacturer. If she can't
yep,
find them, she's going to hunt 10 times as harder to go find them, and she does that, and
yep,
so on with the sire with Atlantic's Way, and talking with Sean and everybody that's like, well, this dog, he's going to go get birds. Now, as far as just a gun dog, you got to have that dog, that manufacturer's bird, to be under control. You don't want to go out and put them in a big CRP field and have them be 600 yards away, because
yep,
anybody that's ever hunted in Iowa knows that these birds are going to run and then they're going to
yep.
fly. So,
That's right.
and
That's
that's
right.
where the brains come in, where trainers or owners have to say, hey, dog, this is what we're doing. I want you going hard, but if you can't see me, or you better turn around and look behind you and see where I'm at, because if you're
Yep,
not with me, you need to turn around. And it's amazing that you don't want them coming back, but they just, okay, I'm going to make a flyby and I'm going to go over there. Are you coming with me, or what do you want me to do? But they never
yep,
stop moving.
yep. That's right. That's right. Um, and the other thing I got to mention to you too is, um, I've owned a lot of different breeds of dogs, and um, setters just happen to be one of the two dogs that I'm very fond of. Uh, I was a short haired guy before I got a setter, and um, I still own a couple, but there is nothing prettier to watch than a setter out there on point in some grass with that straight up tail and that flag flopping in the wind. I tell you something, if your heart don't beat out of your chest over that, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, it's
Very
that
true.
goosebump feeling you get. And
Yep.
you sent me some great photos of your dogs, and that male with the black spots and the black head, that
Yep.
might be one of the prettiest
that's
dogs that I've
Yeah,
encountered.
he's a beauty.
And just
Yep.
the way he held his tail, his head's up, that dog is a good looking dog. And if anybody walks over the hill, I don't care if they have Musterlanders or short hairs or anything, if you walk over the hill to see something like that, you
Yep.
should get a lump in your throat and go, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that dog is a grandson out of Shadow Bow, and he's out of a female I had, a little tricolor female. She was just a good bird dog, and we called her Cricket. And she was a tricolor female, and her lineage went back to like Hamilton's Blue Diamond and some of that type of stuff, and but he's he's a nice dog, and you know what, he'll run as big as you want him to run. But if it's one of them deals, we guide with him, and if you walk out there with a gun in your hand and blaze orange on, he kind of knows what's going on. So he's a good dog too. I've owned a lot of setters, and I'm sold on straight tails, 12 o'clock, and I've always been a little more partial to a tricolor dog, but I've owned a lot of orange and whites. My first setter I ever had was what they call lemon and white, and so the first setter I ever got was a female I bought out of Edina, Missouri, and a police officer had her as a puppy, and I had short hairs, had been running short hairs, and I had decided one day I'm going to buy me a setter, and some guy said, "Well, there's a guy in Edina, Missouri that's got a litter of setters, and he wants $75 for them." I said, "Well, I can't go down there, but here's $75 and bring me back a female." And so he did. And it's the first one I ever owned. And boy, I was sold. I was sold. She was a great little dog. And I don't remember how she was bred, but she did what I needed her to do. She found birds, she retrieved birds, and she backed other dogs. And so she was a great dog as well.
Yeah, and I know with of course, we were doing some video stuff in the past years ago, and I know you are not any stranger to the video world. In fact, some of our listeners probably have watched some of Bob West's videos that he's produced over the years, many of which you have a starring role in of some sort. I've watched a lot of his videos where you're helping him demonstrate some of the dog techniques, and you did that for quite a few years.
I did, and Bob is one of those guys that has really helped me along the way, and I think Bob is a great trainer. He's retriever trainer now, and he helped me along the way, and Bob and I done some videos together, and he hooked me up. I did a video for a show out of the Carolinas, Bob Redfern outdoors, and I did the flush one time, and but I got to thank Bob for all that, because he kind of led me down the right road, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it's amazing who you meet in the dog world, and where having a friend and having a buddy and a colleague, if so to speak, and you learn new things about the dogs. And I learned a lot from Wade, and when I did retriever training, I learned from the retriever trainer guys. And you go through all the schooling, you think you know everything, and then we had this discussion last week with Nick from Gun Dog It Yourself, and he taught us stuff. And it's amazing when you build that network of the people you meet and the things you learn. And you know, I think that's part of the good thing about bird dogs and in the upland hunting community is that, you know, there's people all over that no matter what they hunt, what they train, they all have good advice, and we all want to see everybody do better and
Yep.
and make the breeds better. And I think that's a
Yeah.
huge thing for the whole world, I guess, the gun dog world.
Well, you couldn't be more right. In fact, and we'll get into some NAVHDA stuff here in a little bit, but the one thing I'd like to say and how things have really come along throughout the years is I would encourage any dog owner, whether you're a new trainer, whether you're a child, whether you're a lady, doesn't matter, to get yourself hooked up with some type of dog organization, whether it be a breed club, whether it be NAVHDA, whether it be shoot to retrieve, some organization where NAVHDA, for instance, we're big on youth and late. We have a lot of women in our club that are running dogs in NAVHDA. They show up at our training days, and they've turned that into a family event. And when you show up at them training days, the one thing I can tell you about me is I've always kept my ears open, because you can learn something every time you go out. You know, I've been doing this a long time, but yeah, I don't know it all, and I'm always willing to learn. And I've went to a lot of seminars in my lifetime, some good seminars. I went to Rick and Ronnie Smith, and Rick Smith's dad was Delmar Smith. I don't know if you've ever read about his book, but I tell you something, the more experience you've got being around people that train and stuff, you just can't go wrong. And so I'd encourage that, and I'd encourage for people to join a club, be a part of it. So that'll help you along the way.
Yeah, and without mentors like you had Bob and you know Wade and myself working with the kids that are coming up. I mean, dog training is you just don't learn that overnight. I mean,
No.
you can read books about it, but until you do it and go out and see other people do it, it's a tough road to hoe. And if you don't see your issues, you know, and know how to fix them, you know,
Yep.
learning to identify the issues with the dog is probably harder than actually training the dog to get out of those issues. But if you
Yep.
can't identify certain problems, you can't fix them.
That's
And that's
right.
huge in the dog world. I've sat on the line with dogs, labs, everything, and you can look at that dog, and sometimes, especially the labs when we're running them off a blind or something, you can already tell that dog's not thinking about where I want it to go. So how am I
Yep.
going to get that dog's attention back to say, no, you're not going that way, you're going
Yep.
this way? And even with the setters, you know, I can
Yep.
tell if I see a pack of birds fly down after they've flushed, and that dog doesn't know that, I'm like, okay, you're not paying attention. I need to bring you back, but I need to know how
Yep.
to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
you know, you spoke on the NAVHDA stuff a little bit, and kind of tell us, you know, when you first started, you know, you had the short hairs and then you transitioned to setter. Does it have to be the super special dog, or can somebody that just has a dog that'll listen and a dog that knows to go hunting, is that something a guy can get into fairly easy?
You know, NAVHDA is an organization that you do a natural ability test, utility test, and if you get a prize one in a utility test. You can run in the Invitational, which is a top test in NAVHDA. It's a national event, U.S. and Canada. And the thing of it is, NAVHDA is made up with all pointing breeds. So you'll see short hairs, you'll see Brittany's, you'll see pointers, you'll see few English setters. You see a lot of the Italian breeds like the Spinonis and the Broncos and stuff like that. But they for each test, you're training for specific things, and obedience plays a big part in all of that because they obviously have to heel. They have to, in NAVHDA, which I grew up training my own dogs, and I hear it 100 times that you never teach a pointing dog to sit. Well, I believed that until I got involved with NAVHDA, and I think the clear answer to that is you can teach them to sit, but there's a right time to teach them to sit. And so I'll tell you something about what I think about NAVHDA dogs. We've all went to the field before where we open the dog box and we hook our dog on a lead strap, and he's about pulling our arm out of our socket to get to the field. And after being around a bunch of NAVHDA dogs that you open the box door and they don't bolt out, and they step out on the tailgate, and you hook a strap on, and you tell them to heel, and they heel with you to where you want to go, and you tell them to sit while you're getting your gun loaded or whatever it may be. That in itself has made, as I've gotten older, has made hunting more enjoyable. And they become good citizens of the family. They listen, they obey. A lot of NAVHDA people keep their dogs in the house. Over the years, I've had many questions. Well, you're not supposed to keep a bird dog in the house. Well, I think that's far from the truth. I think the more they're around you, the more willing they are to please, and they can be in the house, and you can train in the house. There are things that you can do in the house when they're around you that is part of that training. And so I think that's good if a person keeps them in the house. And the thing that I have enjoyed about NAVHDA is the obedient side of it. And the NAVHDA, they do a lot of water work as well. We do blind retrieves out of the water. We do a double mark, honor at the blind. So essentially, you're taking a pointing breed and you're making them proficient in the field, and you're also making them proficient in the water. So they called a versatile dog. You see a lot of short hairs, you see a lot of wire hairs, stuff like that. They're a versatile dog, but essentially a pointing breed of any pointing breed can run in NAVHDA, and we see a lot of them. I mean, when we have our training days, we see Vizslas, Munsterlanders. Last Sunday we had a training day. A lady showed up with her first setter, and so it's pretty exciting to to get to work with them people. And so anyway, and so that's a little bit of NAVHDA for you.
Yeah, well, I think that's terrific that you get to share that knowledge with these young people that are trying to carry on the sport, because, you know, when people like you are no longer involved in it, there's all that tons of experience and things you've learned from different dogs that you've been around. I mean, that's invaluable. You can't replace that. And so when you find somebody with your experience and background, I think your club is very, very lucky to have, you know, somebody like you to be able to help them along the way. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Well,
and I know this question's we're going to get messages for what you said, and that was one of the question I was going to ask you, is the right time to teach a pointing dog to sit.
yeah,
And there may be other opinions, but you brought that up, so now I'm going to put you on the spot and make you and have you explain to what your thoughts are on that.
well, I'll be glad to do it. And like I always tell people, it's my opinion and mine only. There's people that agree with me, but I never do that until I've introduced dogs to birds, and I want them holding their birds and working their birds before we go back and teach that, because that's just the way I was taught, and that's the way I do it. Makes sense. And so that's the way I do it.
Yeah, and for the folks listening, the reason that he does that, and I personally don't teach my dogs to sit, but the reason they do that is because you don't want the dog associating when he wants me to stop to point, you don't want him thinking, well, I can just sit. You want him to point. And
That's right.
And that adds on to the point of training in the house, is because you're away from the birds, you're away from the grass, you're away from the dog box, you're away from all that stimulation of hunting, that you can teach that heel, you can teach that sit, in those calming, the manners, you know, you can separate all that from the house. And
that's right.
That's probably helpful too. Am I on the right track with
your
thoughts?
You're spot on. You're spot on. First of all, it's a natural thing for a dog to want to sit. I don't care if it's a bird dog, a house, a schnauzer, or whatever it is. It's very natural for them to sit. And in fact, if you're ever heeling a dog and you're walking down the street and you stop at a corner to visit somebody, I'll bet 9 times out of 10, the dog on the leash is going to sit down. You didn't command him to do it. It's just a natural thing. So I've always looked at it that I don't teach that. It's already there. In fact, I would, at a young age, until I've worked them on birds and got them holding their birds and developed prey drive and all that stuff, then I go back and start doing that. But I don't do it first. But that's my opinion.
No, and that's a great tip for our listeners, and you know, that's what we're here for, and bringing people like you on here, Kelly, that has the knowledge and tons of experience, that we appreciate that, and for our listeners, you know, you could probably ask a lot of different trainers that same question. They're probably going to give you something similar to the same answer. So you've done that NAVHDA, and so you do a little more. You work at the Big Springs area and with Brownells, and kind of explain what you do there.
So about in 2009, Brownells purchased some land, and we started an upland hunting preserve, and I manage that. We have a shooting range as well that I used to manage as well, but I I stepped down from that a couple of years ago, and I mainly just run the hunting preserve, and I think we're up around 500 acres. We obviously run an upland hunting preserve, but we also run NAVHDA events. The Hawkeye NAVHDA chapter, which is an Iowa-based chapter, we use that as our home. We actually hold the invitational there every other year, which is the big one. We'll be there in 2014, and it'll last about 4 days, 4 or 5 days, and we'll typically run, give or take 110 dogs over that amount of time. So just so people know, NAVHDA is a test. It's not a dog trial. It's a test, and it's pass fail type thing. You either pass or you fail. And so for dogs to make that invitational, they have to qualify for it, and they qualify the year before. So they run that in September. So if you qualify a dog like this summer for the invitational, you won't run it this September in the invitational. You'll run it next September. So that's how it works. But it is not like a horseback trial. It's not like shoot to retrieve. And don't get me wrong, I got to tell you, I love all of that. First trialing I ever done was and I think they still do it, was over in Palo, Iowa. I was running short hairs at the time, and I was a youngster, and horseback, and I didn't have a horse. And after a couple times of that, I figured that if I was going to keep playing this game, I had to buy an acreage somewhere and buy a horse or two, and that really wasn't in my plans. So then I become affiliated with the Iowa Gun Dog over at Osceola. Know a lot of them people, and then in 2009 we started the preserve. In 2010 we held the first invitational there. Bob West played a big part in that, talking to me about, hey, let's do this, and so we did. And we've been holding it every other year since. So it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I like it because it's a family oriented event. We see kids, we see wives, we see single women, we see single guys. People are showing up and training bird dogs, and to me, that's what it's all about.
And to join your chapter, you guys have regular training days where everybody gets together and helps each other out and throws birds and
We do.
everything. So
We do. We do. We typically one day a month, and it's usually on a Sunday. And in fact, last Sunday we had a training day and our chapter picnic. Each year we have a training day and then have a picnic, a barbecue, and that stuff. And it's all out there at Big Springs. So, but it's ideal place for people to come and get help and work your dogs and but whether it's NAVHDA or any other organization, I would encourage people to be involved.
So when people can come spectate, I'm assuming.
Yep.
So if they have any interest, they can come. They can
Yep.
bring their dog. And
Yep.
so, and you guys are there, and I'm aware of some of these. There's no NAVHDA chapters up northern Iowa where I'm at, and the only time you're going to get my setters to swim is if you put a little blue baby pool out in the yard.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're a newcomer coming into this, they can go on like the NAVHDA website and
Yep.
look all that up, and there'll be contacts, and just call somebody and they'll be able to come and just see how it works. It's an open arm kind of community.
It is.
Probably always looking for volunteers to get involved in helping do certain.
Absolutely.
Certain things as well.
You know how that goes.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, if anybody's interested, our chapter is Hawkeye NAVHDA chapter. We have a website. You can go on there, and it has a calendar of events. And we always welcome new people. So yeah, be glad to have new people show up.
And they can actually come to the trials and watch those as well.
You bet. We allow spectators and yep, you'll learn a lot by standing back and soaking that in. I mean, I enjoy it because I'm a talker, and I really enjoy talking to other trainers. And but yeah, and I'd encourage you guys to come on out and see what it's all about.
Yeah. And
I've always Kelly, I've always thought that, like golf, professional golf, they needed something in the dog world like that senior division, for the old guys.
Yeah.
They can't get to that bird quite as fast as some of these youngsters do. And
that's right.
Yeah, so
that's right.
Maybe there needs to be a senior division in the dog world as well. I don't know. But,
Yep.
But yeah, it's lots of fun.
Yep.
I belonged to a coon hunting club for years and years, and we traveled all over the country, and we had fun. And so I was in the trial game for that, and we'd have spectators. And the one time I said, there's a couple older guys who are like, I don't think I want to hunt anymore. You guys go too fast. He said, hey, why don't we have a seniors division?
Yep.
And the one closest to me took his hat off and whacked me over the back of the head as hard as he could with that hat. So I'm glad you suggested that, because I've been smacked for that.
Yeah.
But it's a good.
A man has to know his limitations.
I know. I got to be careful. I just had my hip fixed a year ago, so
I know.
I'm not that far. But with the NAVHDA, I think it's good for newcomers, because you're not competing against anybody else. You're competing for yourself and yourself only. So and the judges actually say, okay, you need to work on this. They're going to help you along the way, even if you're just at a training session or a actual competition.
That is exactly right. Everybody's there to help everybody, and that means the judges. And if you have a fail, they're probably going to pull you off to the side and say, hey, you got a really nice dog, but we think you need to work on this. And so it's a good organization. And Thomas, before I get away from it, I got to mention, you said you were in the coon hound. I have a twin brother that, as we grew up, I went the bird hunting way, and he was a competition hound man. And you may have ran into him at night hunts. He hunted PKC and UKC and had a lot of good dogs over the years. But as brothers growing up, he went that way and I went this way.
One of you got smarter.
Well, I'll tell you what. When we were in high school, he'd say, Kelly, I'm going coon hunting tonight with such and such. Why don't you come along? Well, I didn't have a one of the fancy headlamps, and he'd say, "Bring a flashlight." And so I'd have this little 2 battery flashlight thing, and those hounds would go to tree and seem like 10 miles away. And of course they were trying to get to their dogs, and I had sticks poking me in the eyes, and I was trying to keep up with them, and and we'd get back to the truck, and I'd say, "Oh Lord, please say we're done." And my brother would say, "Well, should we make one more dump?" And I tell you, it didn't take me very long to figure out I'm not a coon hunter.
We used that same thing. Should we dump them one more time? And then you look at your watch and like, it's 3 a.m. already.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but yeah, I
yeah,
see you get smarter. I retired from that, but I still enjoy it once in a while. But it's amazing what, you know, when you're even that you're coon hunting with coon hunters and you're the bird dog guy, you still have that camaraderie. You want to watch the dogs work. You want to see them do well. So I think the NAVHDA is a good thing because you're going to see water retrieves. You're going to see obedience. You're going to see pointing. You know, if I were going to do trials anymore for anything, I think the NAVHDA would probably be the way I would go because of all
yeah,
that.
yeah. And I'll tell you something too. Hey, you guys are dog people. You're hunting and dog people, but I grew up when you grow up around dogs and around training and around hunting and stuff. When you get around people, like I would go to some night hunts with my brother and just sit there. There was a little club down in La Grande, Iowa, and I would go down there and sit there until he got done. But when you're around dog people, something runs through your veins, and I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a coon dog or what it is. You all got the same interest, and that's a dog. And so I don't know. I just had this conversation with somebody. I said, it's a whole lot easier to get in the dog business than it is to get out of it because you know what? If you got 5 kennels, I've gotten down to 2 or 3 dogs, and I say that's it. And the first thing you know, somebody says, "Hey, such and such had a litter of pups, and boy, there'll be some nice dogs." And you just can't stay away from it.
Yeah,
And
you got that empty kennel, for gosh sake.
yeah,
I mean, you got that
yeah.
run.
just collecting dust.
Yeah.
Bob West, I talked to him yesterday, in fact, and I'm getting ready to build a new kennel here at my house, and he said, "Kelly," and I'd been thinking about two kennels, and he said, "Just build you a 3 kennel, maybe have 2 dogs and keep one empty." I said, "Bob, it don't ever work that way."
It doesn't.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. I've got
no.
four run one right now. That's could use a couple dogs, but
I got a 10 run that's half full, and I got puppies coming. So hopefully it's not completely full of all of my dogs, but I guess there's not enough time in the world.
Yeah, you have to be my age, then you're going, okay, the ones I've got, I'll get to the end, and then that'll probably be it. If been like Kelly says, then you hear about a certain litter or a pup comes along, and somebody says I've got an extra one, and it's a started dog at 6-7 months, and could be a good one. It just needs some time and some work, and I'm too busy at my job, and so he sends you a picture, and here's this beautiful looking dog, and you're thinking, wow, there we go. And so,
We'll send you a picture
and now you
of
got
puppies.
another 12 years.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to stay on the planet for another 12 years till you get that dog done.
Yeah,
So,
well, when I have puppies in a few weeks, you both are going to get text messages.
Yeah. I know you're going to be sending me pictures. I know you will.
So Kelly, when we've talked about everything you've done, and obviously you have a pretty impressive resume, and I know a lot of people respect you. but we always finish out our show with your favorite hunting story with a dog. It could be just a moment that, you know, you were, even if you were training and you walked the dog out of the kennel and it healed, it sat, it run a blind, and then it went and pointed a bird, and it all took 5 minutes, and you put him away. Or it could be a bonehead moment, it could be a blooper. But when you're sitting around with your buddies or at a NAVHDA thing or just shooting the bull with us, and we say, what's your favorite dog story? What's the first one that comes to mind?
Well, it's the easiest one to remember because I tell it every time and I joke about it. And it's not so much the dog, but I got an old friend of mine, Joe Furrow. He's got some short hairs, and he's actually had a couple setters from me, and I've known Joe for many years. He's getting older now, and he's got a Bronco now. He's involved in NAVHDA, but I don't know how many years ago it was. He and I went pheasant hunting, and if you can imagine this, it was one of them days where there was like 6 inches of fluffy white snow and fresh snow, just snow. And I had been to a Pheasants Forever banquet the night before, and you know what them are all about. And I won a shotgun. I won an 870 Express Remington. And so Joe and I went pheasant hunting, and we were walking up this ditch. It had a creek in it, and the water was running pretty good. It was pretty deep, and he was on one. We were both actually on the same side, and we said, "Boy, we're going to have to cross this to hunt across the creek." And so we walked up there a ways, and we found a log or a tree that had fallen across the creek, and Joe went first, and he walked across that creek, and he got over there and called the dogs over and got the dogs over, and I went across, and stuff like that, balance and stuff for me is, I'm no Fred Astaire on my feet, and I started to cross that log, and actually something broke, but the other thing is I lost my footing, and I fell backwards right in that creek, and I mean, when I fell in, it was over my head. I mean, and of course that water was, and it shocked me, and I had that new 870, and I dropped it under the water, and boy, I come up out of there, and of course Joe was, "Oh, you okay? You okay?" And I said, "Yeah, but I dropped my gun." And he said, "Well, that's good. I just wanted to make sure you're okay." And I said, "Well, I'm going back down to find that gun." So I held my breath and went down. It didn't go very far. I found that gun laying on the bottom, and I come up out of there, and he kind of helped me up the bank, and of course, you know, I was soaked, and he said, "Oh my," he said, "I got to get you back to the truck so we can get some warm clothes and get you warmed up." And I said, "You know what, Joe?" I said, "Actually, I feel like that water was warmer than the temperature." I said, "I think we'll just go ahead and hunt, and I'm going to be fine." He said, "Oh, we can't do that." I said, "Joe, we're here now. The dogs are wanting to go. Let's go hunting." And before we could go any further, he knew it was all right, and he just dropped to the ground, started laughing. He said, "Kelly, you should have seen your eyes when you come out of that water." And every time we get together, we bring that up, and I got to tell you guys that I, like I said, I've been involved and met a lot of just wonderful people. And to me, the bird hunting is about the camaraderie. It's about the dog training. It's about the dogs, and it's about the people you meet along the way, the friends that you gain. Um, it's not about the kill, and I think the kill is a bonus, and we all need that to train dogs. They need some birds in their mouth, but uh, it has really been about the camaraderie and the people I've met along the way. And I've had many litters of pups. I don't know how many litters over the years, and I think I've given more away than I've sold, and it's because it's either to a kid or somebody I knew that, boy, they wanted a bird dog. And for me, if I raise dogs to make a living, boy, I'm not sure how that would have worked out. But I'd a lot rather put a smile on a guy's face or a young kid's face, and that's the future of what we're doing. And so, anyway,
well said, my friend. Well said.
And it's always good to have that good friend that's going to ask you if you're okay before he laughs.
yeah.
I've had the same experiences. I usually get the laugh, and then, oh wait, are you okay? So
yeah.
Now the best. The addition to the story would be on the first flush of the birds after that took place. You killed a bird with that water-soaked shotgun that you had rescued from the bottom. But
well, now I'll tell you what. I know we're running out of time here, but I got to tell you the truth. If I had to depend on game I shot, I'd starve to death because I'm not the best shot.
That's why you take a good shot with you when you go.
That's
If
right.
I want to eat birds, I'll eat his birds. But
yep, that's right.
Hey, it's been tremendous fun talking to you tonight, and it's been too many years since we got together, and I apologize about that because I've thought of you often when I've seen pictures of setters, and I've heard about some of the things that are going on down there at Big Springs. And so the best in the future for you down there, and hopefully things will you'll keep bringing people in there to that preserve.
You bet. And like I said, you guys are always welcome. I've enjoyed this. I really have, and it's been a pleasure to be on your podcast, and I ask that you stay in touch with me.
We will, and we appreciate it, Kelly. And again, folks, if you want to look into NAVHDA, just check out the NAVHDA website, the Hawkeye chapter of NAVHDA in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, and check out the hunting down at Big Springs. And it's not that far from us here, really.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to have to make a trip down there.
Yeah, so the usual thing, folks. I mean, we've got some things happening with the podcast. We continue to grow. That's on you. You guys have been helping us out for listening to our things you want to hear. Let us know. Give us some suggestions, and subscribe when you get a chance. And we got puppies coming. There's going to be a lot of cool things that we'll get to talk about here. Look at that. There's a lot of good things we'll get to talk about here in the episodes to come. And so make sure you take somebody hunting.
Keep their nose in the wind.